What it do, YouTubers, and welcome back to the Hollywood Rip Studio for this week's episode of our Invest Cards of the Week, part 3, should I say, of our MLB Offseason Special. It's the Cardboard Critics Sports Card Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Hollywood, joined by my sports card consigliere, Joe Nasty. I don't know what that means. I just remember it from Dodgeball.
It's from Dodgeball, yeah.
You know?
I am Michelle.
My fashion consigliere, Michelle. But I'm going to level with you guys here. This week's episode definitely comes with more risk than the previous two.
Oh.
And it's mostly because we have a couple cards under $100, one under $20, and it goes without saying, the opinions and advice in this show are the sole opinions of us and do not constitute professional investment advice. Please do your own research and make your own decisions, guys, when deciding what to invest in. Now that our lawyer is happy, we can jump right in for this week. And like I said, it's going to be a little riskier, and that's primarily because a lot of these cards, well, half of them, are significantly cheaper. If you want less risk, you invest in players that are more expensive because they are better players. Right? But let's start this week off with Ezequiel Tovar. Of course, Ezequiel Tovar, the shortstop for the Colorado Rockies. That is this guy right here, number 14, Ezequiel Tovar. His 2021 Bowman Chrome first prospect autograph in a PSA 10 is down 40% over the past year to $75 per card. This was a $450 card 2 years ago when he was a prospect. Keyword there, guys, prospecting. Shocker that this prospecting card is down by $350 or whatever the heck it is, $375 over the past 2 years. But 2024 for Ezequiel Tovar, $269 from the batter's box. I have no idea how he hit $270 because of what we will say in a second. But
there's something behind the scenes then.
26 home runs, 78 RBIs, a 295 OBP, and a 763 OPS. Now, it was his second year in the majors. He improved his average from 253 to 269 last year. That's significant. And he improved his home run total from 15 to 26, which is very significant.
That's big time.
And remember, this is a $75 card. Like, we're not talking a $100, $200, $300 card like we did on the first two special edition episodes of this MLB Offseason Special. Now, like we said earlier, the big issue is that I don't know how Ezequiel Tovar hit 270 last year because he struck out 200 times.
It's a lot of balls not in play.
That is a lot of that is a lot of whiffing, right? I would strike out as many at bats as I was in the box if I were in.
Yeah, it'd be a 1-to-1 ratio.
The major leagues. Yeah, it'd be a 1-to-1 ratio. But it's crazy to think that Ezequiel Tovar is like maybe half of that.
It's true.
You know? He's like, there's like, I'm twice as more likely to strike out than Ezequiel Tovar. That's crazy to say.
It's true.
That's actually, that's actually really crazy.
For someone who doesn't get paid to play baseball.
For someone who doesn't get paid to play baseball. Yeah, exactly. So why is he even on this part of the episode? Well, there's a few reasons. Number one is that he hits at Coors Field. Okay? And let's let that be a big X factor because we've seen in the past, whenever Rockies leave Coors, their careers have been entirely pedestrian, right?
Yeah.
Look at Story, look at Arenado, look at these guys that were 30, 40 home run a year mashers with 300 averages in Colorado that go elsewhere and their careers kind of slowly die a slow death.
Except for Chris Bryant, who came to Coors Field.
And got worse. Yeah. But here's what we know about Ezequiel Tovar. He's very young. He's very, very young. He can defend. And barring a trade, he is locked into playing in Coors Field for 7 years and $63.5 million. So you know that Ezequiel Tovar will be in a situation where this is going to be a shortstop hitting 30-plus homers a year for presumably the next 5, 6, 7 years, which will have value. Does it have value over $75 is the question. And that, keep in mind, that's for the PSA 10, not like the 9, not the raw. Ezequiel Tovar could sneakily put up 270 if he improves more on the average, cuts down a little bit on strikeouts, which I doubt it, honestly. If he improves even a little bit more, I don't really see the average, to be honest with you, going higher, much higher than 270. I just don't for the number of strikeouts. But if he goes on to be a 30-plus home run guy for 5, 6 years, he will probably end up signing a $200+ million deal down the line, right? I mean, it's awful lot like Trevor Story, right? I mean, Story had more speed for sure.
And then Tovar's better defensively.
And Tovar's a little better defensively. So, and again, like I said, a little more risk in this week's episode, but Tovar at $75, should he have a breakout year where he hits 35-plus homers, I think you could see this card sneak into the 100s range. Your thoughts?
I think so too. So he's got that unbelievable defense that I mentioned. That sort of is his calling card. He just won his first Gold Glove. He did, and so the next couple of numbers I'm going to throw out. Again, keep in mind, Coors factor this out. Yep. But you still need to hit the ball. First in the National League, the entire National League, in doubles. Second in the National League in extra base hits. He did lead the Rockies with those 26 home runs, which my initial thought was 26 home runs for the Rockies, playing half your games at Coors Field, honestly seems kind of low for a team high. But for him, like that's a pretty good number.
For him, because he's not a huge dude.
Yeah. He did, that's exactly why I was like, wow, how about that? He did improve his OPS to 764. It bumped up from the year before that. So he's a young man who's improving. If he cuts down those strikeouts, even just a smidge, like
180.
Be a free swinger who strikes out a lot, but don't strike out 200 times.
You can't hit the 200 mark.
So, like, you see where things could get really, really interesting if he continues this trajectory. And yes, he plays half of his games at Coors. If he sticks around there, this could be maybe what people actually envisioned Javi Baez, his career looking like. You know what I mean?
Could be, yeah.
And maybe he doesn't swing at balls that are beyond the left-handed batter's box like Baez does. Based on those numbers, like, I love to see improvement. Like, you may not be doing wonderfully right now, but for a guy on a team that just, like, is just there for vibes right now, especially in that division.
I like the Rockies. I think they're a really cool franchise.
Yeah, well, franchise is, like, they don't really try. But, like, I love Coors. I love the color scheme. I love Dinger, the mascot. So I might be willing to take a flyer on Tovar here.
Right. And I mean, and everything that what you just said this is why his card is $75 and not $300, like some of these other guys that we talk about.
It's true.
Speaking of which, let's shift gears a little bit and move to a couple guys whose cards are priced literally the same for the most part, and this is in the $300 range. We're going to kind of jump around a little bit on this week's show, but let's talk about Wyatt Langford versus Jackson Merrill. Okay, of course, Wyatt Langford, Jackson Merrill, both outfielders. Wyatt Langford playing for the Texas Rangers. Jackson Merrill with the San Diego Padres. Langford's 2023 Bowman Draft first autograph. We're going to look at the PSA 9 and the 10, as well as Merrill's 2022 Bowman Chrome autograph. We're going to also look at the 9 and the 10. Wyatt Langford is down 54.3% and 50.7% respectively on the PSA 9 and 10 of his cards. The PSA 9 is sitting at $160. His PSA 10 is sitting at $350. While Jackson Merrill's PSA 10 is sitting at $356. So $6 difference between Langford and Merrill. And his PSA 9 is sitting at $229. Now, these two are virtually identical in price. Obviously, right. I think Merrill's 9 might be one to avoid right now, being at $229. I think it's probably a little uppy in terms of the price.
Uppy.
Also important to note that Merrill's is not a first Bowman because he does not have a first Bowman autograph. He does have a first Bowman. It is not autographed, and it's not even a picture of him. So this is his first Bowman Chrome card that was autographed.
It's unbelievable.
It's not a first. But anyways, let's check in on Wyatt Langford. Kind of a mixed bag a little bit, but overall, in my opinion, a heck of a performance given circumstance for Wyatt Langford. 253 on the year, 16 homers, 74 RBIs, 19 steals, a 325 OBP, 740 OPS, and a 4 WAR in 134 games for a true rookie. Look at his September. September, he hit 300 with 8 homers, 20 RBIs, 7 steals, a 386 OBP, and a 1,000 OPS, 996 OPS. Wyatt Langford was put in a really tough spot in his true rookie season. He was selected 4th overall in the 2023 draft. He had an insane spring last year, which is why he made the big league club out of the gate. Right. He hit 365 in the spring, 6 homers in just 63 plate appearances. It was so good that the Rangers said, we have to have this bat in the lineup.
Yeah, he beat down the door.
Yeah, and I think Langford kind of surprised a few people maybe with some of these stolen base numbers as well. But given that he's going to have less pressure this in his second year, right? He had a lot of pressure coming in your first year and just skip the minors, right? Just skip the minors, go straight to the majors.
Who needs them?
That's a lot of pressure. I mean, who's the last guy to do that? Harper was only in the minors for what?
Like the same year after getting... Well, no, Harper got a little bit of season.
He was there, yeah.
I'm thinking of, for whatever reason, remember the pitcher for the Royals who pitched in the College World Series, then debuted the lefty, I think Finnegan? But I'm sure there's been guys since then.
Yeah. But look, Langford...
It doesn't happen often.
I could easily see Langford push like a 275 average this year.
Yeah.
And be a 30-30 guy, in year 2. Because what he did was, with all the pressure of the world kind of on his shoulders, with a Rangers team that was ravaged by injuries for the most part all year.
Yeah, they were.
And if you talk about a second-year player who's 23 years old, who is putting up 30-30 numbers, or 30-30 years with a 275 average, that's Corbin Carroll numbers.
Sure.
That is Corbin Carroll numbers. And so, in my opinion, if he has a good year, and I think the Rangers are going to have kind of a bounce back this year, I could see Langford cards have a little bit of a bump in this coming season. Anything on Langford before we transition to Merrill?
I would say the division's definitely there for the taking, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. It's definitely a classic case of not how you start, it's how you finish. And I want to even expand the numbers that you talked about from his September, right?
Yeah.
And as I do this, it's not going to sound fantastic, but this is a guy who bumped his numbers up from 222. So he was really swimming in place. So in his last 100 games, so a majority of the season actually, he batted 263 with 15 home runs. Again, that doesn't sound like world beaters, but God forbid a youngster adjusts in the middle of the year, gets better, on top of everything that you were talking about.
Right.
Being thrust right into the spotlight. And 15 home runs is nothing really to scoff at over 100 games. I actually think the last time we talked about Wyatt Langford, didn't he hit for the cycle that day?
I think he did,
on ESPN?
He did.
So, the speed and all of that's in there. And, again, looking sort of below the surface, he competed. Game is a baseball of adjustments. Baseball is a game of adjustments, and he saw what he was doing wasn't working.
Right.
And he became a better player as the year finished.
Yeah, and he made the adjustments. And again, this isn't, at this point, we say it all the time. I'm not a huge fan of prospecting. I don't see this as prospecting because Wyatt Langford is facing major league pitching, right? What he did in September was against very, very, very good MLB talent, right? Mm-hmm. But transitioning into Jackson Merrill a little bit because these are the same price. And I mean, look, Jackson Merrill, what even is there to say? I mean, He's currently sitting at $50 more than Corbin Carroll. He's the same price as Kyle Tucker right now.
Interesting.
Both of whom, as you guys know, if you watch our shows, we think are suppressed cards in terms of value as it is. Mm-hmm. Jackson Merrill had the best year of any rookie outside of Paul Skeens, and I don't really think that's debatable.
Yeah, offensively at least.
Yeah. Now, he doesn't have, as I said before, he doesn't have a first Bowman autograph, so this is kind of as good as it's going to get for in terms of Bowman Chrome for Jackson Merrill. But 292 last year, 24 homers, 90 RBIs, 16 steals, a 326 OBP, an 826 OPS, and a 4.4 WAR. He is an elite defender, plays for an elite team that will make deep playoff runs, so the postseason upside is there for Merrill cards. If you look at the Baseball Savant statistics for Jackson Merrill and Wyatt Langford, you can see there that Jackson Merrill is an unbelievable force from the batter's box. Yeah. I mean, he is 94th, 95th, 94, 97, 96th percentile, 94th percentile on sweet spot in baseball in his first year. Keep in mind, fielding his range, 97th percentile.
For a guy learning the position.
Yeah, who was a converted infielder. Mm-hmm. Sprint speed, 81st percentile. Arm strength, 90th percentile. Look at Wyatt Langford. Same thing, a little more modest from the plate, but we saw a lot of improvement in September from Wyatt Langford. But defensively, again, unbelievable. 80th percentile, 89th, and just 68th percentile on arm strength. But look at the sprint speed. Wyatt Langford is 98th percentile on sprint speed. I don't think anyone really saw that one coming.
Interesting.
If I'm being totally honest. And yes, Jackson Merrill was up 174% last year. But where the price is at, $350 for the 10, I still think there is growing room for Jackson Merrill. He is young enough where it is relevant that if he has a good year, the prices still bump. It's not until you get to like the third year really that people start to focus more on the shinier, newer stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Your second year is still very much in that window of first big bumps in cards, right? But yeah, Jackson Merrill, elite team, elite at every level of the minors. He loves playing the game. He's a 5-tool player for the most part. And so yeah, I think Jackson Merrill, just as I think Wyatt Langford, I think they could be in for real big years. And if they do, then yeah, price of these cards will go up. We could also be totally wrong, which it happens. It's inevitable that we're going to be wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
But these are just, this is...
Just doesn't happen often.
It happens. It happens.
Once in a blue moon.
Well, no. It happens a little more often than that. You can't predict the future. We're just... Look, we just take the numbers, we take the stats. This is how we feel about it. This is what we think. You guys are entitled to have your own opinions, and that's totally fine.
Free country.
And that's totally fine. We'll talk about it in the comments respectfully with you guys, but no need to attack anyone, But Jackson Merrill?
Look, this is your boy, so...
Well, I mean, he's not my boy. I'm not a Padres fan.
No, but you do love the Jackson Merrill.
I do. I really do like Jackson Merrill, yeah.
He does
it all.
So... In terms of the intangibles, yeah, for a guy to go from the infield and then have those numbers on Baseball Savant as an outfielder in his first year, like I said, learning the position.
Pretty crazy.
Pretty impressive, and he did it on the biggest stage in a playoff hunt and then making the NLDS, 5 games. So Yeah, I like the it factor. I think I talked about this last time we talked about him. The Padres, while trying to add to their team, are also like not trying to add to their team.
Yeah,
And so like all that could be a factor. Like they want to get rid of Bogarts, who is making their team actively worse. Rise may not come back. Who knows about Profar? They're trying to shed salary because they have they're in a bitter ownership. They're embroiled in an ownership issue, and they have no TV deal at the moment. Or it's complicated, as they would say on Facebook.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind. If you consider team value around a player, that's where the only like knock on Merrill I would go.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah. No, I'm with you. I think that's a valid point. But let's move to invest card number 3 for this week, and that is Riley Greene, outfielder for the Detroit Tigers. His 2019 Bowman Draft Chrome first autograph and a PSA 10 is up 7.4% over the past year to $180. 2024, 262 average, 24 homers, 74 RBIs, a 348 OBP, an 827 OPS, and he had a 5.4 WAR at just 24 years old.
How about that?
The Tigers were surprisingly good this past year. I don't think anyone expected them to be a playoff team, but they were behind Tarek Skubal emerging as probably the best pitcher in all of baseball.
Yes.
But keep in mind also, like Spencer Torkelson, the other big offensive piece for them, young offensive piece for them, had an awful year.
He did.
For the most part. If he rebounds and some of the other younger pieces come around, right, Riley Greene could find himself very quickly at the center of a solid playoff contending team. Also helps that they're in the AL, because the AL kind of...
Not just the AL.
Yeah.
The AL Central.
They're in the AL Central, which is entirely up for grabs seemingly every year. But look at Riley Greene's, and we're going to get through Riley Greene kind of quick because we got to get to one more after this, and I want to try and keep this under 30 minutes. But Riley Greene's baseball savant statistics, they rank top 25 in all of baseball. He was one of the top 25 players by metric in all of baseball last year.
That shocks me too, but yes.
His hitting stats, I mean, he's pretty much 85th percentile on higher in just about everything from the batter's box. He can improve the K percentage and the whiff percentage, the square up percentage a bit. He's not a fantastic outfielder, but he's better than most. And I think he doesn't necessarily possess like elite speed or elite defense necessarily, right? It's not like Langford. Riley Greene, you just can't ignore the bat. You cannot ignore the bat. You cannot ignore a 24-year-old with WAR over 5 that's on a playoff team.
Yeah.
Riley Greene, maybe?
I think probably. Riley Greene, Trey Sweeney, Parker Meadows, and then if you get anything out of Torkelson, and then, I don't know, Alex Bregman to the Motor City Kitties. Look, Riley Greene's so weird to me because I feel like I've heard that name for about 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like anyone who follows the game and relatively follows the Tigers, which I don't really. Like I've heard the name Riley Greene, and so I thought he was just like I thought he was a busted prospect because all they're doing is finally making it to the bigs and just like figuring it out in obscurity in Detroit. So here's what you need to keep in mind with Riley Greene and what his big jump was for last year. He finally, his biggest adjustment was his launch angle. So the power went up. He's trying to hit the ball more in the air. And while you did talk about his hard hit percentage, that did go up. Not to where we want it, but the hard hit percentage went up a bit. He's trying to get the ball in the air, which means I think he might be primed if he continues this trajectory with the just ability and youth and learning and perhaps a culture. The power may go up. The productivity may go up. Who knows? Maybe the steals will go up. And we could see something pretty big for Riley Greene. Again, only 24, but I feel like I've heard about him since he was 14.
Yeah.
So there's something there.
Yeah. Riley Greene could be an interesting one heading into
his numbers go up every year. That's the main thing.
Yeah, and I mean, he's also going to have a little more protection in the lineup this year, which is very important because there was virtually none for the most part in Detroit.
It depends on the day.
Yeah, it depends on the day. Depends whether Torkelson's making contact or not, right?
So probably not.
Yeah, because we all know Baez ain't. Let's move to invest card number 4 for today. Actually, I don't even know. This might be the 5th or the 6th. I don't even know how many we've talked about, but this will be the last one today. And this one might come as a surprise to you. And I'm telling you, this is a riskier episode. It is what it is. But let's talk about Jacob deGrom. Of course, the pitcher for the Texas Rangers. His 2014 Topps Update rookie debut in a PSA 10.
Was it 2014?
Yeah, is down 52.5%.
Sure have the volume on that?
I don't know why it's so loud.
I know I don't hear very well, but
Is down 52.5% over the past year. It's just $19. So this is what we were talking about, guys. This is an under $20 card. This was a $200 card at the peak of deGrom's powers in 2021. And I usually would say don't even bother with pitchers. Don't buy pitchers. But this one, I think, has upside and very little downside risk. Because why? Because the downside risk is already built in, right?
yeah.
He obviously is injury central the past 2 years. He's only made 9 total starts. But in those 9 starts, he's had an ERA of 2, a whip under 1, and he still has a K per 9 of 13 in 2023 and 12 in 2024. From all reports I'm reading, he is finally healthy.
Yeah, it's every year.
Again-ish. And ready to start the 2025 season. It's the first time in a while he claims he's been fully healthy to start a year. This Rangers team showed how good they were when they were not injury-riddled in 2023. They did something pretty big that year called winning the World Series.
Could be huge.
Yeah. I look for a big rebound year for the Rangers in particular, and an even bigger one possibly for deGrom, who, if he stays healthy, I have a feeling is still one of the best 2 or 3 pitchers in all of baseball. And the reason, and I know a lot of you guys are probably sitting there saying like how could you say that? This dude never plays. He's the most injured pitcher in all of baseball. I get it. Look, I get it. But let me ask you this question. What is the worst that could happen? He gets hurt again. And if he gets hurt again, this $19 card becomes what? $15?
What if he pulls a Wander Franco?
That ain't happening. That ain't happening.
You never know.
This goes from what? $19 to $15? $14? Like, who cares?
Right.
Who cares if you lose $5 on it, right?
You don't get 1 coffee and muffin on a Tuesday.
Right. But I'm saying if he puts together a reasonably healthy season and the Rangers probably make the playoffs, I'm telling you, this is primed. This is kind of primed to double or triple, depending on what deGrom's stats are, how healthy he stays. I mean, look at the Baseball Savant statistics for Jacob deGrom. If he puts together a double-digit win season and is dominant with a 2 ERA again and a whip that starts with a 0 and not a 1, which he almost always does, strikes out over 200 guys, and leads this Rangers rotation into October.
Which they should.
Which they should with this talent. This could be a huge bounce back year. But look at the Baseball Savant.
Okay.
2024, and again, it's kind of grayed out because he didn't qualify. But it is. And there was, like 2 or 3 starts. so keep that in mind. All 90th plus percentile for the most part. For the most part, right? Look at 2023. 2023, he had only like 6 starts or something. And look at this. Look at this.
I'm looking.
98th percentile, essentially, on every statistical pitching category. The last full season we can even look at is 2022, and it was, 98th percentile, 96, 98, 98, 99, 100, 99. I don't know why his average exit velocity is always on the lower side. Maybe because he throws so hard that when people make contact, it comes off
I would say so.
a lot hotter.
It just sprays off when they don't know.
But remember, this Rangers team it gets a lot back this year. They're going to be full strength. Corey Seager, Wyatt Langford emerging. Marcus Simeon's still there.
Yep.
They get Josh Young back after that wrist injury. Adolis Garcia, still there as well. Jonah Heim. Their rotation could use a little help, honestly, behind deGrom and Eovaldi.
True.
But the skeleton is there to add on to. Don't forget that Evan Carter is really in a show-me year now after a horrific second year. Rangers had a lot to prove, but I think they could be good. And I think if deGrom is actually defies the odds and has a healthy year, it won't be $19, I can tell you that.
No.
And I can also tell you if he gets hurt and flames out in the 5th game that you maybe lost $5, and I'm sorry, but like...
It was worth it.
But like, I don't know. I feel like I could buy 50 of these cards at $20 and just kind of like, or, you know, however many you want, and you unload them if he has any remotely healthy year. Because he's still one of the best pitchers in baseball.
He did have a 1.69 ERA last year.
In 2 starts.
3
starts. Pretty good. He was on my fantasy team. What's up.
Look, I didn't realize he was 36.
So was Strider. Ouch.
Yikes, that's a hell of a rotation you had there. Look, having a rookie card might be really cool just for the pure fact that like you get to see old long hair deGrom. When he's on the mound and when he was doing his thing, this was a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't know if the injury issues the last 2-3 years are going to knock him off that pedestal at all. I would say maybe not a first ballot anymore. Still a Hall of Fame pitcher though. And obviously, yeah, potentially. And when he's on the mound, he is still a force. Out of Stetson University, I always love the fact that when pitchers still batted, he was a lefty batter, despite being a right-handed thrower. Look, you're taking a shot. And like Mr. H has said, what are you really worried about? Like, what's the risk here?
This isn't buying a $300 card and risking, $150.
And this also is a youngster. Like, this is a guy when he toes the rubber is going to be effective.
He's going to be elite, right? Yeah. Your worst case scenario is you lose $5.
Yeah.
Right?
That looks like a good hit to me.
We're watching the Rams-Eagles game at the same time.
Yeah, so I would take this chance, truly. Like, of all the things we talk about, like, this isn't some youngster who's still figuring it out, got hurt, and is coming back. Like, think young Steven Strasburg.
Right.
This is Jacob deGrom.
Right.
Jacob deGrom.
Yeah.
For 1 year, go see what happens. Like, and then the year after that would probably be a waste because he'll be 37.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just, I know he only made 3 starts last year, but he had a 1.6 ERA and a whip in like the 0.8s or something, or 0.7s or something. I mean, the dude is still legit, right? The question is, does he toe the rubber? And that's kind of what you're betting on. But I think the upside actually outweighs the downside of losing $5 on this one. But I want you guys to keep in mind, long-term investment really usually only works for like a handful of guys in the sport at any given time. Most of the recommendations that we like to give have a point at which you're gonna want to sell. If we're holding cards long-term, like AKA forever cards, then we will probably let you know. These are cards that could see a spike, right? So it's going to present a potential profit-making opportunity if you're able to get out and sell. I just want to make that clear to a lot of you guys. We're not saying invest in these cards and hold it forever. We're saying there's potential for this to go up in the short term and for you to make a profit. That's all we're saying. But that'll wrap things up for us on this week's episode of the Cardboard Critics Sports Card Podcast. Hope you enjoyed this week's show. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell down below. We actually did pretty well last week. I think around 30% of you, or maybe 25% of you who watched were actually subscribed to the channel, so that's awesome.
Very cool.
So let's keep that number headed up in the right direction. So until next time, I'm Mr. Hollywood, that's Joe Nasty, and we'll see you guys next week. Mr. Hollywood, Joe Nasty, bye-bye.